All right. So you and I just attended the SPF 24 in Vancouver, BC. It was so fun
Mhm.
to be there with you. You've been to probably all of them. I can't remember one that you
Well,
weren't at.
I've sort of come and gone a little bit over the years, but my I remember the first one, the first stage performance of a Volt Stack 5K was on the Sustainable Production Forum stage in 2017.
Yeah.
And I actually have video of that. If anybody's interested out there,
We should
let
show
me
that on the
know. Yeah,
tie-in.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so hilarious and awkward and cool.
Was that your light
So
show?
yeah, that was the light show
That
with the
was the
video
light
that was
show.
all powered by the Volt Stack.
Yeah. It was so
People
cool
didn't
that
even
you
know
did
what to
that.
do with that.
I
They're just like,
know.
I remember when it finished, it was like they didn't know whether to clap or not, or it was hilarious.
You were
And
way,
then
way
you,
before your time.
yeah, and then you and I had the pleasure of doing a live interview as well, and it was wonderfully attended, and people got it, and I think there's something really special about getting people in a room, right? One thing's doing
Yeah.
stuff on video, but bringing people in a room where they can share ideas and chat and network. That's the
Yeah.
power of SPF.
I love it. Yeah, it really is. People get together, they have this renewed sense of inspiration, they get to meet new people, there's new conversations coming into the fold. You can kind of see how the industry is evolving over time, and you get to kind of, talk about that with people. This year's, both Toronto and Vancouver, really
Awesome.
great,
Yeah.
really great. And I got to sit in a Hummer EV, which gave me, wonderful mom cred with my
Yeah.
kiddo. And it was great. And I loved doing the live recording of the
Yeah.
tie-in with
Yeah.
you and Andre.
Andre Champagne from Hollywood Trucks.
Yeah, because, like doing it in front of a live audience, we got to interview him, obviously, but then we even had a couple questions and kind of getting that, like now that you've heard this like really mind-blowing stuff, you get to join in. And I love that engagement with people.
Yeah, I
Really.
love looking in the front of the audience and I'm like, okay, yeah, I see some positive head nodding. Yes. Okay, keep going, keep going.
I know. I know. It was a lot of fun. And I really appreciate the SPF team for
Yeah.
helping us get that into the fold, and our cool
Yeah.
music played. And when we walked out, like they really like helped
Yeah.
us do it up. So I appreciate that.
And I think the SPF embodies the energy and vitality and openness that I think the film industry needs to continue to lead with, because it's not always like that. And
I
so, but we
know.
need to do that.
I know. I know. There's not really a veneer there. It's
Yeah.
pretty, it's pretty true and pretty accurate for what you're going to get in the industry. So I really appreciate that quality as well. Not trying to greenwash here. We're trying to, empower
Yeah.
people
Make
and
shit
make a
happen.
difference. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the MO.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah, it was great being
Great.
there with
Well,
you.
yeah, you too. And it was great to interview Andre. He's a real natural. So we'll stay tuned for that episode coming out in the near future. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the tie-in. We're excited to speak today with David Hardy, who is a longtime industry veteran. He started off in production, and now he's taking on a new journey into the world of entrepreneurship, with a new venture around hydrogen generators. And Zena, it's so interesting now that we get to look back at the history here of sustainability in film over the last decade, and our paths have been intertwined with David's over the last number of years.
That's exactly the word I was going to use, is intertwined, because he, spans quite a number of years in entertainment. And And I remember meeting him early days and his interest and whatnot. And I know you have. I remember when the two of you were introduced. I pushed for
Yeah,
him to bring portable electric in. I've teased him over the years about it a lot
yeah.
too. Like, how come this hasn't happened yet? What are you thinking? These kinds of things. So I'm really curious to hear his perspective on this because, when you meet people as connected as he is, um, I think that, chips fall somewhere, right? And if you keep pushing and kind of collaborating and whatnot, like, then you start to figure out where those possible points of interest are, right? And so he's one of those that I feel is super connected and just has a wonderful sort of, I guess, bird's eye view of the industry sometimes.
Yeah, and I always loved his enthusiasm, and he knew what he was, where the industry needed to go and wanted to do the right thing. I think he also, in my experience, came up against the machine, and
Yeah.
and so I could feel that. And we did everything that we could, and so did he when we worked together, and we advanced this. And I think that the work that David did, and alongside Portable Electric and Green Spark Group and other leaders in the industry, really did advance the industry and really did put this front and center, even though it may not have been, it may have taken a number of years longer, which now we look at the industry. I mean, it's we're really quite advanced compared to where we were in 2016.
Mhm.
But I do think that David played an instrumental role in advancing that.
I do too. So I'm looking forward to hearing his story, how he tells it, and his perspective in all of this and what he's working on now, because it feels like he's always looking and reaching for something because he can see the possibilities. So really interested to hear how he tells it.
Yeah, and also, as we continue to touch into hydrogen, right? There's this constant dialogue,
Yeah.
right, around is hydrogen going to be a thing? Is it not? Is it here? Is it not? Right? So, yeah, it'll be interesting to get a take on that as well. But it's an exciting time in the industry, that's for sure.
Yeah. Listen in. Hi, David.
Hello,
Welcome
David.
to
Yeah.
the tie-in.
Thanks, Zena. Hi, Mark.
Hey, nice to see you again. It's been a while.
Nice to see you. It has been a while.
Yeah, we're happy to talk to you. Have all known each other for quite a while.
It's
So
2016, at least us.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
so, right? Yeah. And David, you've been in and around entertainment for a long time. So really curious to hear your perspective, both as you've kind of had your professional career in the entertainment industry and now you're doing clean tech. So really curious to unpack that as we go. So can you tell us kind of how you got started in entertainment so we can get it kind of a context of where you're coming from in all of this?
Sure. Sure. I kind of backed into the entertainment industry in that I had graduated from university. I did actually take a couple of film courses while I was at Queens. So it was something that was always on my radar. But I graduated, traveled the world, came back, got into the travel industry for a while, which was perfect, having just been traveling, and that was my real passion at the time. But when that came to an end, I was one of my very close friends was an entertainment lawyer who decided to give up law and to go to Los Angeles and try and become a film producer. So she was accepted into the American Film Institute. And as her part of her class's project, they were going to shoot one of her scripts. And she asked me if I would ever consider coming down and working on her production. And I just happened to have some time, and I was able to leverage my trip down there by sleeping on she and her husband's floor in their apartment in Beechwood Canyon. And I worked for about a month on a no budget American Film Institute feature film in and around Los Angeles. At the time, it was actually after the Rodney King trial, and it was in between the trial and the sentencing of the cops. So it was a really kind of an edgy time to be down there and to be driving a truck around kind of north, south, central. Not, I was never really in any kind of the more notorious neighborhoods, but anyway, so I started, I worked on the show. Allison came back to Toronto after she graduated and started working for Atlantis Films back in the day. And her first production, whether she uh, will acknowledge it or not, I think she made the right indication to the production manager that they needed to hire me, and they did as an assistant production coordinator. And that was my first gig, and it was about a series called Traders. And then from there, it was just the freelance world for the next 6 years, finding shows, working as a production coordinator. And as a coordinator, I think that's where I started to really get a sense of the waste of production.
Yeah.
You are right at the fulcrum of all systems coming and going.
Yeah.
And it was always gut-wrenching to have the writers say, yeah, there's just enough changes, enough revisions that we want to print a full new script. And we would collect 60 or 80 full 90-page scripts and just into the waste they would go. And there was recycling at that point, but nonetheless, the waste that was going on, there was no double siding, there were no scriptation, no kind of online platforms for paperwork. So it was just a morass of paper. Worked as a coordinator for about 6 years. Then I worked in union management as a business representative with NABET 700. And I can kind of point to the day where I really decided that my mission was going to be around power. And it came to a situation where a local counselor had called representatives from the film industry into her office to complain about the volume of filming in her riding, because some of her constituents were complaining about diesel generators parked in front of their condo for 14 hours a day, 5 days a week, and how that impacted their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was very much of the, don't you know how important the film industry is to the city?
Yeah.
But when it stacked up against the lives of people, and then doing a deeper dive of, well, if that's one generator one day, God only knows what some of these monster productions that are using 10 or 12 jennies, what kind of emissions impact they're making.
You're in Toronto at this time, right? You're back in
Yes.
Toronto when you're talking. Okay.
Yes. So I have my career in the film industry started in Los Angeles, but has been pretty much focused on Toronto. Up until the time I came to William F. White, where I was able to visit our operations across the country and get engaged with the communities across the country around sustainability. But at back in 2007, everybody was kind of starting to focus a little bit about waste around production, and the industry here in Toronto was focused to a certain extent. Everybody got together, all the unions, guilds, a lot of the big service providers, to talk about ways in which we could mitigate our impact. And it was all very, very positive and very aspirational, but it was also couched in the, well, we can't offend anybody. We don't want to do anything that would potentially not be on cue with our employers, largely a lot of the big American studios. And so that, in combination with the financial crisis, I think in 2008, everything just kind of dissipated a little bit for a number of years. And then it was a process of just kind of trying to just claw back and get to a point where we were starting to meet again in the kind of 2012, 13, 14. I met Zena. I can't remember what year it was, Zena, but it was at Hot Docs.
I think it was 2013 or 14.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that was Planet in Focus, I think. We pitched a documentary there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I think you were maybe a judge or something.
I was a judge, and I was
I can't believe you didn't pick our piece.
I did. I did.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we didn't win.
It was up against a massive Disney feature.
There you go.
Because Disney said, or no, I don't know what I was overruled. Let's just put it that way, because
Yeah.
I believed in what you and your partner Asa were doing. Um, and and so that kind of started our relationship. And then through, obviously, and for listeners, through Zena, I met Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you start off at sort of a production assistant in LA. You end up doing this for 6 years. You're sort of into the union world. Through that, you move into the equipment rental industry.
Yes.
But the whole time, though, in the back of your mind, you have this lens around sustainability, around waste, or at least assessing the industry as a whole. And then we met when you were the sustainability officer, or some you were at White's, William F. White's, which is now Sunbelt, um, and you were looking for new solutions for power and for sustainability at the rental level. And then I had showed up on the scene in late 2015, then 2016 and 2017. That was when portable electric came on, and introduced we weren't the first to introduce batteries, right? Because I mean, I kept hearing all the time, oh yeah, we use cat batteries, and oh yeah, we've been using cat batteries in inverters for forever. They don't work, they're not reliable. And then so we introduced the volt stack. We started with the 2K and then the 5K. So, and those were very, very early days. And we worked with you to introduce some of those units on some of the very first productions that were out there. Um, yeah.
And alas, the story does not have that fairy tale ending, for at least William F. White and portable
Yeah.
electric. We were not, it's one of the consistent challenges that we have in sustainability as a whole, and that is convincing people that the time is
Yeah.
right. It is a viable option and that it's a cost-effective option, when people have entrenched in their minds the way that production works. And that's a consistent theme. And listening to your podcast with David Sinfield,
Mm.
Sinfield.
Yep.
Sinfield,
Yep.
yeah.
I was struck by that somebody of his caliber was prepared to try something new, but how he kept coming back to, well, it's not quite, people aren't quite there, and there has to be, it's not going to solve every problem. And it's like, well, it will solve every problem. But you have to have that open mind to figure out how to manifest that change. And largely, he's one of those who are doing it. But anyway, so yeah,
Yeah.
our relationship. I mean, I hope that I was a conduit. Maybe I greased the wheels for portable electric to meet up with, or to strike a deal with Sim, and to get more mainstream quicker. And I to this day remember that opportunity missed, and how the fortunate part is that you didn't miss the opportunity. We missed the opportunity.
Yeah. Were you in the room when I pitched Bronfman?
I sure was.
Yeah, that was awkward, but hilarious. I learned a lot. Um,
And interestingly, Paul Bronfman, former
yeah,
CEO and owner of William F. White, old school,
yeah,
but also, has really done a 180 in terms of sustainability, and really understands what we're trying to achieve, and that it is achievable, and that it's going to take some investment. And
yeah.
he's become an advocate, as opposed to somebody who is sitting back going, I'm not sure that's going to work.
It's interesting. Zena and I were at Sustainable Production Forum this past Tuesday, and it's incredible to see how far the industry has come now. I mean, since those days, there's so many products that are amazing out there, that are in the field, that are being used in around the world. And so it's been a really, amazing 8 years to see the industry thrive. Um, which takes us to, so you sat on, the side of the equipment rental group, and now you're on the other side. Tell us about, what led you to going to the equipment manufacturing side.
Uh, when I shortly after I joined White's in 2011, I think it was the next year, 2012, I took the chief um, uh, um, science guys, for lack of a better word, the technical team from William F. White to a company called Hydrogenics, which is now owned by Cummins, and it was a hydrogen fuel cell manufacturer. And I did that because I had a connection to the company that Hydrogenics had bought to kind of bulk up, a company called Stewart Energy. And I thought maybe hydrogen offers a solution to the larger scale problem of how do you convince a crew that a battery is going to be big enough and powerful, or that a power source is going to be big enough and powerful enough to displace a diesel generator. And it was way too early. They showed me something that was the size of a city block, and it was multi-million dollars. And I just said, we'll see you in 5 years or something to that effect. But I knew that this was coming, and that it was, the fact that batteries had started to penetrate the rental market as they had, showed that there was an appetite for change, albeit still somewhat guarded and reserved in terms of their understanding of the capability of something that isn't an internal combustion fossil fuel burning engine. And so throughout my last half dozen years of working at William F. White, I had been working with a group that I met kind of haphazardly, of engineers, and my hope was to produce something that we being William F. White would develop and bring to market. And for a variety of reasons that anybody who has ever been involved in a startup, and Mark, I'm sure you've got umpteen examples of reticence of the kind of incumbent technology to do something different or to try something different for, it could be business reasons, it could be philosophical reasons, or just the lack of awareness or understanding of new tech. But it was not happening. Once William F. White had been sold to Sunbelt Rentals, I thought that there might be a really heightened opportunity to do something. And, they're big corporations. They are slower moving in some areas, although I think they're all kind of moving in the right direction. They're just not moving as fast as I was hoping would be.
Yeah. So Sunbelt has taken a leadership role in that, that's for sure.
It certainly, their UK operation has really kind of stepped it up, and I would hope that creates some internal competition amongst the various national branches to outdo each other, because it's to the good of humanity if they do. Anyway, so I left William F. White about a little over a year ago, and have been working full time with my group of engineers and colleagues on a project to bring a hydrogen generator to market. And our initial iteration had been hydrogen fuel cell, because that is what hydrogen was. It was fuel cell derived. Certainly in the kind of application that the film industry might be used to, or at least be familiar with. So we went down that road, found much the same that we had been finding with all sorts of new tech, is that it's hard to come by. There's a perception of it being much more expensive, and just not, just so nascent that convincing people that you could offer a solution was kind of falling on deaf ears because of scaling opportunities and just basically the kind of global supply chain. So we found ourselves at a point where we had a fuel cell, we were developing it into a generator, and our manufacturer was kind of concurrently offered the opportunity to bring an internal combustion hydrogen engine over to North America. So that's what we have done, and we are going to be bringing to market in the next, well, I've been saying the next 6 weeks for 6 months. And again, this is a global supply chain issue, and that's something that I had never contemplated, that when somebody said we'll have it in a month, they actually meant 6 months. And I guess anybody who's ever done any renovation in their house, or watched any kind of construction projects, realize that you need to build in about double the time that you're first made aware of. Um, but anyway, so we got to a point where we have the engine, we are putting it into an enclosure. We have our fuel trailers already up and running on the road. There it is, they're two ostensibly kind of if you envision a sea can, it's about a third of a sea can. So it's about 12 or 13 feet long, and it contains 8 canisters of hydrogen, and they will be delivered from our fueling depot to set, wherever that happens to be, and be able to replicate the process of refueling and on location production, or at a base camp in a studio, but that showing up once, in a prescribed manner, once every 2 days, once every 3 days, refueling, leaving, and then coming back 3 days later, and refueling, and in this case, swapping out a trailer full of hydrogen tanks for another one.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the primary notion that we've had from day one is, how do we create as little difference as possible in the experience of the technicians that are working with the equipment. Understanding that film it's a kind of a study in pressure and time, that there's a lot of pressure and a little time, and people don't have the ability to sit and ponder and look at new things and try out new things all the time, because they're under the gun. So how do we make the experience as close to what they're used to as possible? And so that's gone into every part of our design. The fact that it is a fueling process that's very replicant of what the crew would be used to. It's a little less management maybe than having to understand when batteries need to be taken off for recharging, or brought on new batteries, or what have you. We've been very cautious in not attempting to come off as the only solution, that hydrogen is the only way to go. Batteries don't work. Batteries are a part of the industry, and they will always be a part of the industry. It's just a matter of what we can do. And I reflect back on Mark, your outlook from very early on was a hybrid solution for SET, and how these various energy sources can work in conjunction with each other. The beauty in this case, and I know that there are lots of groups out there that are working with a hydrogen, or with a hybrid diesel generator and battery.
Yep.
And that's great in reducing fuel consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. But my approach has been, I just want to go all the way and get rid of the fossil fuel burning portion of it. And whether you have a hybrid system of hydrogen generator and batteries, or straight hydrogen generators, use the technology at hand, help to complement and to maybe enhance the opportunities in the application of all of the equipment that's available, but at the same time, getting fossil fuels the hell offset.
Yeah. Because we know it's all possible, and multiple solutions are, the key to making it possible. I'm wondering though, David, like, you're, in entrepreneurial world now, as you've gone from union world, equipment rental world, and now you're on the entrepreneurial side and building and figuring out, all the R&D, all the financing, prototyping, and getting the product out there. You mentioned supply chain, you mentioned a couple of, challenges, the user side of it as well. I mean, as you're now thinking as an entrepreneur, what are those kinds of challenges, startup world challenges that you are encountering? There must be some, right?
Oh
That are
yeah.
different than working for a large company and doing R&D in-house and all of that. So what are you experiencing in that regard?
Well, the capital markets have been in disarray over the last number of years, 2 or 3 years. So getting the funding has been the first and foremost piece of the puzzle that has been a challenge. We fall in between a lot of classic funders. Their sweet spot is either much larger projects or very, very early startup stage, or seed stage. And we're a little bit beyond seed, but that's been a huge obstacle. And we get into the vicious chicken and egg cycle of show us the product, and it's like, well, we can't show you the product until we can raise the money to build the product, but what we can tell you is that we've got lots of industry interest. Great, show us your industry interest. And it's like, well, we don't have a PO because nobody will issue a PO until they see a piece of equipment. So that's been a very frustrating part of it. Understandable.
Can you
But
double click on that, David? That double click on that the chicken and egg with the film industry, because a lot of other industries are willing to take a chance on a product that may not exist yet because they see the opportunity, they see the need. That need is not missing. There's something in that what you said, that the film industry says it wants it, but it doesn't want to make some sort of a commitment. What is that? Explore that a little bit with us.
Yeah, and I've got to be careful in that we are working collaboratively with several of the studios. But that being said, I've been fairly outspoken in saying that it's great to talk about sustainability and talk about having a commitment to net zero, and having an interest in having sustainability supervisors and training them to go onto your sets. But if you're not prepared to make an official or make a really hardcore mandate to change, then it's all so much greenwashing. And I do believe that there are, and there's a bit of a conflict in that the people with whom we deal regularly at the studios are the true believers in climate change and how we must do more, but they're not the ones signing checks or making official decisions. And frankly, it comes down to shareholder primacy. I mean, it's all about returns for shareholders with large publicly traded companies, and I've experienced that both externally and internally in my former world, that when you're a publicly traded company, that is your first priority, is providing shareholder value. And so anything that perceptually is going to impact that, it's just a non-starter. So hence we get companies that say, well, sure, we really want new tech, and we're very interested in working with you and testing your new tech on our set, but we won't pay any more for it than we would the incumbent technology. And it's like, well, at a certain point in time, you've got to step up and commit, understanding that you will find savings that you never realized were going to be available. As I think anybody who's worked in batteries with production has that experience of, wow, because we did this, we've saved money over here. We didn't anticipate that. And so that, or you work with a forward-thinking jurisdiction like the city of Vancouver, where ultimately you can pay for your high-tech, new tech, clean tech equipment from an incentive that is designed exactly for that reason, to instigate, to incentivize the private sector in developing more tech that will help the film industry. So it's a tough one, but I think that it falls on us as entrepreneurs and as people working in the industry and people who know the industry, frankly, to be able to demonstrate that where you might have a higher sticker price, your total cost of ownership, i.e., the run of your production. So not even owning a piece of equipment for years, but just utilizing it for that run of your show, you will come out no worse off than you would have had you used incumbent technology. It will be a learning, and the crew and the accountants and the production managers and the AD, everybody will learn and are learning as they go where those savings are, and the fact that this specter of a green premium still persists is it's a false flag as far as I'm concerned. It's an opportunity to not affect the change, to not get out of the standard operating procedure, and do something a little bit different. And so I think those in the production world that are prepared to step outside need to be heralded so much more than they have been,
Yeah.
and really celebrated for being leaders, and hopefully they will act as evangelists for those people who are on the edge and think, I just
That's why we're doing this podcast, David.
Yeah.
100% why we're doing this. One thing you said though that I totally agree with, in that this term green premium just drives me crazy, because it's such a fixed way of thinking about the budget, and and how costs are going to affect each other. Like, it's just it's not a holistic view, and I don't like it when folks use that, because they're kind of tracking into kind of an old mindset like you described. Do you also think that it is also kind of a function of how our industry has worked for years, very short-term in nature? So we have a short-term mindset about all of this stuff, and not thinking more long-term, not thinking more, investment oriented, in the sense that if we invest now, 5-10 years down the road, our industry is going to look a whole lot differently. And, you know, so both taking into account kind of the nature of our industry in that regard, how we think about time and the product, and also, the sort of business world of, short-term ROI versus longer-term investment and transformation.
Yeah, it is hard to think, even if you're on a series that is going to go multiple years, where you might have more of an opportunity to look at something holistically. It's really hard. It's really hard to develop that long-term approach when you're going to be on for 3 months, and at the end of 3 months, it's over and done with. But that's why there's been so much effort and attention paid, and hopefully some advances around circularity, and in looking at not just your project but the industry as a whole, and how do we work longer term in keeping processes and materials and just that philosophy. I mean, the film industry is very circular to start with, just in the approach. I mean, for years I was as a business agent, I would be locked in battle with production managers who didn't want to pay the kit rental fee for some of the crew that they were hiring. And it's like, well, okay, I do understand that sometimes it's taken to excess, but for the most part, this is material that they have accumulated, that this particular technician's accumulated and kept out of landfill. If you want, we never really talked about it that way back in those days. It was more just they're saving you money over over the short term of your project, that you're not having to go out and buy a bunch of new stuff when you can, at 30 cents on the dollar or 20 cents on the dollar, rent some of that equipment or costume or what have you that you're going to use on camera. So I think the mindset is entrenched in the film industry, but it's only it's at that higher level of we've got a specific timeline for our project. If we go beyond it, then the financials all kind of come unraveled, because then we're into extra labor and we're extra rental space for studios, and now we're, that model, we're not making as much money, we're not dropping it to the bottom line as fast as we can. So, it's a capitalist pursuit, but it's capitalism that's preventing us from achieving our sustainability goals.
Yeah, from
Extractive.
innovating, rethinking, how we want to do this whole thing. It's interesting, we were at the Sustainable Production Forum in Vancouver, and it's the first time I've heard it like really said publicly from a high profile person, but Pete Mitchell sat up on a stage and told everybody to just slow down. And I was like, well, thank you, Pete. Like he's like, if we're going to do this, we have to slow down. And I thought, well, there you go. You heard it first here, because we can't get any faster, right? We are working really quickly, and it's at the detriment of innovation. It's at the detriment of people. And he said it, and I think he's right. There's a whole lot that goes along with it, no doubt. But do you think that that's ever going to happen?
Paradox Pete. I think that, in an industry, so from a sustainability standpoint, I think we have to speed up. We have to go faster. We have
In
to
that regard, sure.
Of course. But I remember when I was a production coordinator that a movie of the week would be 26 days, 27 days. And as I got out of the production world and into the union world, you could see that starting to change. And now it's 24 days, and now it's 22 days, and now it's 18 days to shoot a movie of the week with, the same parts of the script. I mean, the scripts haven't changed. It's just this downward pressure and on people to work faster, work longer, work sometimes a little less safely. And absolutely, I mean, slow down would be the ideal thing. But again, the Titanic is moving forward, and it takes a long time to turn the ship. And when the ship is, and maybe this is a poor analogy, but when the ship or the
It
studio,
didn't make it, David.
no, but it's, it will take, I don't know if it's doable when the business model of these behemoth studios is to pump out tons of content and reap tons of revenue and provide huge dividends for their shareholders. And I'm just not sure where, what has to happen for that chain to change, for people to say, I'll take less dividend. I don't mind. I'll take less money in my retirement portfolio, so that each step down the chain can slow down a little bit, and people can, getting right to the production level, people can shoot a 10-hour day and that's it, or a 9-hour day, and have a life. It was that way once.
Yeah.
And then
it is, we have to understand the difference between extractive and regenerative models of, for the economy, for businesses, right? I mean, this is all new stuff, but it's starting to happen, right? We're not able to continue at this pace indefinitely. It just doesn't work.
No. And I think that, I've seen, we've seen the development of this stream of sustainable storytelling, and embedding sustainability into script, into content, into, locations, what have you. And I think that that's fantastic. But how much more of an impact could it be for there to be an official mandate from a studio saying, guess what? We're not going to hire you as a line producer unless you are 100% committed to doing everything in your power, and we will provide you the resources and their expertise and how to get that change at the right price, i.e., not go way over budget and blame it on sustainability, but to be more efficient in the way you run our business in your particular location. It is, the whole extractive versus regenerative, Mark. I mean, that's the whole essence of it. I mean, we went 200 years ago from agrarian to an extractive
Yep.
Economy, and that's where the spike happened. That's where the hockey stick is in global emissions, and where
Very much so.
it continues to be and continues to rise. And so, and bringing that wholeheartedly, big full circle back into what drives me is that notion that we have the ability to do something that will make a change. And I'm committed in my life to doing whatever I can do to see that through. And famous last words. Hopefully, it's we get to that point shortly where we can get in the field and get demonstrating our project. But then to kind of give you a little bit more detail on what I'm doing, it's really not the power provision part is the easy part. You've got a generator, it runs like everybody's used to. It's just a different fuel, but essentially
The same interface.
The engine looks identical to an internal combustion fossil fuel burning engine, with one exception. But it's now, how do you convince the market to produce hydrogen to fuel this change?
You need demand.
You need demand. You need to, and so we have been working feverishly to demonstrate the demand. But again, the demand comes from for one of our suppliers. They want to see market demand. The market wants to see the actual piece of equipment that we will rent them or sell them to be able to stoke that demand. So it's that double chicken and egg. But in our case, we have a number of outlets that are already producing electrolytic hydrogen, not in a massively abundant quantities yet. We've got a supplier coming online next year that will be providing that abundance of green hydrogen. It's more small pockets of offtake agreements that we are striking in and around Toronto initially, that will provide us the ability to demonstrate the product, to demonstrate that it is, as we have promised, a zero emission, powerful engine capable of replicating a 1400 amp diesel generator, and that it works. It works collaboratively and complementarily with some of the other technology on set.
So, David, one of your superpowers that I've always admired is your ability to connect people. You know the industry so well. You kind of have this, rich history in the industry, and so many people, and you have this wonderful ability to connect people around ideas and whatnot. So what role are you playing at Hone? Are you using that power?
I am
For fundraising.
I am all of the above. It's amazing. Leveraging my film industry background has been instrumental for sure in getting our group together and to creating some interest in finding contacts and working with studios that are interested in what we're doing, and work, using some of the contacts and network that I've developed over the years lately in the sustainability realm to get the word out that there are some new items coming. But I am a co-founder of the project. I am part owner of Hone, which is our the kind of wholly owned subsidiary of Change Energy, which is a group of consulting engineers, of electrical engineers that I was fortunate enough to be matched up with about 6 years ago, and have been working with ever since. Very, very, I mean, I've been exposed to all sorts of groups working in hydrogen and other gaseous fuels over the last number of years, and I have never come across anybody that can hold even the slightest candle to these guys in terms of their breadth of knowledge and contacts. I mean, everybody working in hydrogen in certainly in Canada knows each other. They're all part of the same organizations, and it's a small community. But you know, I've until we've got our generator in the field, my role has been to kind of stoke the fires and to get people interested. And once we have a product that people want to buy or lease, then I will go at it hardcore and be reeling in all those contacts and saying so. And again, the structure of the industry has been, and it's different in different markets, but in Canada, there are two or three big production service companies that typically will provide the vast bulk of equipment to the production industry. That's similar in the States, but not quite as pronounced as it is here in Canada. So that affords both a challenge and an opportunity of getting companies that have sunk tens of millions of dollars into a particular technology that is not necessarily ready for the boneyard, and trying to figure out ways to from a financial basis, not be the totally wrong investment for the company, but work with them. You know, as we scale up, you know, we're not hitting the market with 1,000 generators and associated fuel trailers. So there will be a scaling up period. But what I would hope is that the industry would see, by virtue of Portable Electric or Hone or RIC or whomever is working in whatever capacity, that those companies will build their inventories as they retire their incumbent technology. And frankly, if any of us can come up with a really cost-efficient way of retrofitting internal combustion diesel burning engines to hydrogen, I mean, it can be done, but it's a costly venture, and it's almost, you know, at this stage, almost more cost effective just to buy a new engine, which doesn't help our circularity perspective at all. So, you know, that's something that we will continue, and certainly our manufacturer, Summers Generator Systems, they're working with universities, and they're looking at ways of prolonging the lifetime of fossil fuel burning engines that can be retrofit. But that's you know, that's another measure. I mean, I'm focused more on from our work on creating something new that is out there, that over time will start to get a foothold, and then, you know, between the various technologies, we'll start to see the absolute kind of gradual but irrevocable eradication of fossil fuels from set.
Amazing. David, we ask all our guests, if you probably have been listening to the podcast, you know, if you were to create a playbook, right, around guiding principles in sustainability and entertainment, what would the first 1 to 3 be on your list from everything that you've learned in your career? You know, we're driving this industry forward. Any thoughts on the guiding principles for a playbook?
I think first and foremost has to be, and I'm, you know, it's strange to have to talk about indoctrination and training and providing tools and resources and education for people at a young age. You just have to open your window or open your door and look out there and see climate change. It's upon us. Mm-hmm. But to I think to embed in people's minds, the awareness of the need to do something different, but then to approach their day, their job from that process standpoint of, okay, so what am I going to do differently today that I can start to do regularly, that neuroplasticity of how do I change my daily habits? And in this case, how do I change my daily routine on a set? Do I pick up the phone and call the lumber yard and say, I need 200 4x8 sheets of plywood? Or do I get a coordinator or somebody to say, go online and see if there's anybody that's got a pile of flats that they're willing to sell us at 10 cents on the dollar, 20 cents on the dollar. And start to use resources that are out there, but as a way of just changing the paradigm from waste waste. What's it? Make waste. What's that?
I don't know.
Like
I don't know,
that.
David.
I've never
Okay.
heard this.
I know.
Is
I'm
this
kind of
is
like,
this
what
a
are you trying to say?
this is a new tagline for climate stuff? I'm in. Let's.
Haste makes waste?
No, it's not haste waste weight. It's something that Lara,
I like that though.
the circularity guru that spoke at Sustainable Production Forum in Vancouver a few years ago, that William F. White sponsored.
Oh,
It was this phrase of, we acquire, we use, we waste. So it goes from buy,
Cradle to
use,
grave.
throw out.
Cradle
Kind
to
of.
grave.
It's not quite that, but anyway, start to change the paradigm to how do I source and resource and use and reuse, as opposed to use and throw out. So that whole circularity mindset, how do we embed that into the production process from start to finish? And finally, I would say as the playbook would be to get to the accountants, make friends with the accounting department, and really indoctrinate them into sustainability, because you will find no stronger ally, I think, than the accounting departments in being able to help you understand where your emissions are accruing, but also provide you with the financial data ultimately to demonstrate that what you've done doesn't cost anymore. I mean, you've had Clara George on the program before, and Clara had her famous discussion about the first time she rented electric vehicles. She said, it's going to cost on the outset, it's going to look like it's costing us 15 grand more than it would be to rent a fleet of fossil fuel burning cars. But I'm convinced that we'll save money at the end.
Yeah.
And she saved a ton of money at the end.
Yeah.
At the end of the run of the show, and that's something that the assumption of the industry is that it will cost more, but until they test that theory, they don't realize that they could be saving more money. And it's really, as I said earlier, it's about running your business better. It's not just about, if you can't stomach the, oh my God, these tree huggers and so forth, it's just, how about running your business more efficiently? Because invariably that means you're running it more sustainably.
100%. 100%.
Amen.
Thank you for that. From a long timer in the industry, really helps to hear it. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you as well for your continued passion and support for this. I think a lot of folks at your stage in career would have said, well, you know what, I'm done. I did what I could. See you later. But you've stepped into a whole new role with a new passion for change and changing an industry that I believe needs to be the leader in the industry in the world in terms of going pollution free.
And it's so achievable. And
Yeah,
that's
it's so
the
easy.
part. It is just so achievable if
Come on,
we've
guys.
yeah, exactly. And I thank you guys for this podcast. I think it's fantastic, and I think obviously, Zena, you are the godmother of film industry sustainability in North America, and
It's true.
Mark. I can't tell you how many times I've used the story of Portable Electric coming, trying to develop a relationship and be that leading group that worked together to get to get zero emission power onto set and to have it shut down. And
Oh
but
yeah.
it was the best thing that happened to you
Yeah.
guys was getting shut down that first time with us.
But being and also being a first mover in any industry is always you're in the hot seat, right? Um, Everybody else is able to look behind at your back and take aim and say all the things that you did wrong or all the ways that they were better, right? You probably have a competitor slide in your pitch deck that says all these guys are doing it wrong, right? It's easy to do that, but I think the hard part is like what you said, and I you know encourage you to keep pushing that narrative is you can't fake getting gear in the field. You cannot replace that experience and getting the feedback real time on your equipment, on the guys in the field or the people in the field. So I think that's important. And also you said it also very, very astutely. Um, don't make 100 prototypes and hope that they're all going to work. Make one, make three, make 10, right?
Mhm.
Figure out your business model, but definitely take that time to really understand your users, your technology in the market, because that will save you a lot of pain in the long run.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thanks,
David.
David.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
It's always so great to catch up with him. He is, a longtime friend and
Mhm.
collaborator and instigator, and love hearing his thoughts on how this is all going. I feel like he's got a journey ahead of him, though, in
Oh
startup
yeah.
world.
Yeah,
So,
the entrepreneurial journey of introducing new unproven technology is not an easy feat, but it sounds like he's in the right headspace, and he still has that energy after all these years, and I think that's what's half the battle is enthusiasm and just getting up every day and going for it.
yeah,
So yeah,
I know. I know. Wish him luck. I
yeah.
mean,
Good
we'll
luck,
be
David.
there. We'll be there along the way, like really cheering him on, to see if he can really bring this to market and get hydrogen kind of, on the scene in North
Yep,
America.
yep. Time is now.
Time is now. All right, you heard it here. Thanks. Hi, everyone. There's still more from the Sustainable Production Forum coming up on October 23rd on their virtual day.
Join in from wherever you are. Go to sustainableproductionforum.com to get all the info and your tickets.
Hello, entertainment industry. Something I've been working on over the past year with partners U.S. Green Building Council California and Aerith Environmental is the development of the Sustainable Production for Entertainment Certification, or SPEC, as we like to call it.
It's the first certification for the entertainment workforce, and it's now live for folks to sign up.
Yeah, go to the U.S. Green Building Council California website at usgbc-ca.org to learn more about it and to register for an upcoming class. This is a great way to up your sustainability game and gain a professional certification. So this is for you. See you in class. Our designer is Aaliyah Kane. Music is by Peter Chapman. Our producer is Colin Miller.